Happy Wednesday, everyone. I'm Robin Bless, Senior Minister, Wakanda Christian Church. Here's your Wednesday prayer practice. Something that is bringing me joy these days is fun mail. It's just coming. It's pretty. It's silly. It's touching. It's handmade. It is so wonderful to receive these gifts in the mail. So please keep them coming because I love fun mail. Rosie and I have been sending fun mail out, and I hope those of you who are getting it are finding some joy in it. I received this one. If it gets backwards, it says, if this is God's plan, God is a terrible planner. No offense. If you're reading this, God, you did a really good job with other stuff like waterfalls and pandas. And this one just, I love sending this card. I love getting this card because it's just a reminder that we're all trying to figure this out together. And as God has given us free will, God's doing the same thing. And so your prayer practice for today is one that was taught to me by a professor of mine. Her name's Sister Sarah Lewis, and it is called letter writing. Very simple. It's based off of, and I'm constantly mindful of Psalm 8, where it says, what are human beings? Who are we that you were mindful of us, God? That us mortals, us mere fallible humans, that you want to know about us. And so that's the whole idea of this practice, that as God is infinitely curious, deeply in love with us, and wants to know what is going on with us in our minds and our hearts and our spirits, it is that same type of curiosity that we get to turn towards God, that we get to be mindful of, curious, deeply in love. And as we know, love is complex and difficult and challenging and not always pretty. And so I know this week here in Iowa, we have received some news about opening up of faith communities, and an overwhelming amount of counties in our state are also decreasing their restrictions and social and physical distancing. And I am so grateful, but my phone and email have just been constantly been filled with people wondering, well, what is Wakanda going to do? What should I do? What is the best thing to live out our call to love God and love neighbor? And so I do encourage you, take those questions to God. Write a letter. This is the time, because God is curious about what's going on inside of us. And so just like all of this mail, it's a reminder that even though we cannot be physically together, butterflies upside down, people are still thinking of us. And I know people are struggling with not being able to be in our sanctuaries, our houses of worship. And we at Wakanda are going to continue to uphold our online-only gatherings out of our call to love and serve God and our neighbor. But we are also saddened that we cannot gather in our sanctuaries. And so take that sadness, take that anger, take that frustration, take this struggling with all that is unknown, take it to God, and, get scratch paper or get colorful, fun paper. Get your favorite pens, get crayons, markers, whatever, pastels if you want to color something. But the whole idea is, think about the God that you're writing to. What do you need and want to hear? But also, what is God stirring up in you and in this time of great challenge and hardship that we're all facing? And we know our neighbors are struggling. So write a letter to God And then the next step, and this is always the hardest part, read it. If you feel comfortable, read it out loud to a friend or a family member or a partner or a spouse. Get their feedback of what kind of image of God is coming up in your letter. How do you interact with God? Is God like a friend? Is God a teacher? Is God a scary judge? All those things can tell you about your faith practice and the ways in which you interact with God and the ways in which you interact with others. So while we cannot be in our sanctuaries, we cannot be in conversation with one another in the ways we all long to, we can still be in relationship. It is that reminder that God is even grieved by this. Yes, we have the waterfalls and the pandas to remind us of beauty and joy. And we also have nature to remind us that God is struggling with this too. And God wants all of us, every single person, to be valued and cared for. And so take that to God. Reconnect with God. We can't do it in the sanctuary, but you can do it right in the sanctuary and in the presence of God where you are. So I'd be curious to hear what you learn about God in this process, as well as what God is saying to you and how we're called to live out our discipleship, both personally, but more importantly, together as a community. So happy writing. And I'd love to hear what all of this is about. Have a great Wednesday.